Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Voices from the Field. My name is Megan Hale. I serve as one of the executives for the Office of Deaconess and Home Missioner, and I'm excited to welcome you to this event. Voices from the Field is a series of virtual events that highlight United Women in Faith's international and national initiatives supported by Mission Giving, programs that significantly improve the lives of women, children, and youth around the world. The events feature international and national leaders sharing their work, daily challenges, hopes, and dreams in an interactive format. In this Voices from the Field, we will be hearing from three of our newest United Methodist Deaconess Home Missioners who were consecrated this past spring in New York City. In the Methodist tradition, deaconesses have a rich history dating back to 1888 when the office of deaconess was first established in the Methodist Episcopal Church. Today, deaconesses and home missioners are lay people who work in a wide variety of vocational ministries of love, justice, and service in fields such as education, healthcare, advocacy, environmental justice, and more. Your mission giving dollars support the education and training of these deaconesses and home missioners that they receive as they prepare and equips them to do the work that God has called them to do. In today's event, you'll be hearing from each of these deaconesses, who I will introduce just before they all speak. And then we will have an opportunity to engage in a Q&A session as a whole group. And if you still have questions after that, we will be breaking into smaller groups at the end, which is optional, but you can join a group representing the different deaconesses who are speaking today to ask more questions. So at this time, I will introduce our first speaker, who is Myra Cruz Cubos. Myra was consecrated as a deaconess this year. Prior to becoming a deaconess, Myra served as a missionary, teacher, and chaplain in Yokohama, Japan, at the Yokohama Eiwa Methodist K-12 school. She served there from 2002 to 2013. She later served in the Central Valley Suicide Prevention Call Center with Kingsview Behavioral Health. Myra also previously served as the church office manager for Wesley United Methodist Church in Fresno, California. Myra's ministry as a deaconess today is serving as a court-appointed special advocate, CASA, for foster youth in Fresno, California. Myra is a member of the California-Nevada Annual Conference. I will pass it to Myra to share about her ministry.
Thank you, Megan, for a wonderful introduction. And thank you, Pravina, for your powerful prayer. So God knew when he formed me in the womb that I would be born in Japan. And I had no idea that I would return there as a missionary, but it just opened so many doors for me. So I served in Japan for 11 years at Yokohama Eiwa. Next slide. And the school was founded in 1880 by Ms. Harriet G. Britton. She took in orphan girls and founded a boarding school for these orphan girls back in the late 1800s. And to connect with our Deaconess Home Missioner group, in the Book of Discipline, page 18 in the 2012 version, we are part of this legacy. Women formed missionary societies that educated, recruited, and raised funds for these endeavors. Missionaries like Isabella Thoburn, Susan Brownfield, and Harriet Britton, and administrators like Belle Harris Bennett and Lucy Ryder motivated thousands of church women to support home and foreign missions. As deaconesses and home missionaries, we are a part of that legacy that started back in the late 1800s. Moving forward to the next slide, amazing information out there, just got to find it, along with taking the classes, right? Like in history. Next slide. So here's a chapel that was built in 1860. It's the original small chapel. There are 3 chapels. It has, the next slide. It has the oldest stained glass in all of Yokohama, Japan. It survived World War II and all the bombings. Next slide. Here's some elementary school students entering for chapel. And right above there is a pipe organ, because you got to have a pipe organ in all chapels, right? And all Christian schools. Next slide. And here's a photo of me with students at school festival. And even though I haven't been there since 2013, I am still in touch with students. In fact, I hope to go next year for one of my students' wedding, and I look forward to that. And then moving forward, let's get to CASA. Now, this is my first time to ever volunteer outside of the church. I was born and raised in the Methodist Church. So I'm excited to, I feel free to volunteer outside of the church and serve in our community. So as a court-appointed special advocate, I volunteer with youth to mentor them, to stand up, to give the voice for the voiceless, to advocate for them in court, in school, and in medical care. Um, just to let you know about CASA, it is a nationwide organization. So all state you're in, you too can volunteer, whether as an advocate or little volunteer events. Um, I'll speak on behalf of California. In California, there are 67,000 children and youth in the foster care. Think about that. That would fill every single seat in the Los Angeles Dodger Stadium, plus add 7,000 more seats on the field. And people are needed to serve here. It's very, our mission is to ensure that children and youth in the welfare and justice system have both a voice and services that they need to thrive.
Good day and welcome. I'm Victoria Strayer, co-founder of Voices for CASA Children. Over the course of the next few videos, we will share with you why a court-appointed special advocate, a CASA, is so unique and important, what they do throughout their tenure as a volunteer, and then finally, how you can become a CASA volunteer yourself. You will learn that CASA volunteers are members of our community who care about children and specifically want to make a difference to a child in foster care. While the juvenile court, Department of Child Safety, and most importantly, the parents, focus on resolving the situation that resulted in the child being removed from their home, a CASA volunteer's sole focus is the best interest of the child. They take the time to get to know the child. They listen to the child. They also get to know the new but important people in that child's life, such as DCS case managers, foster parents, group home staff, medical professionals, and attorneys. CASA volunteers use the information gathered to make informed recommendations to the juvenile court regarding the child's best interest. The CASA volunteer also has the opportunity to provide life experiences that help preserve the child's well-being, allowing them to have some level of normalcy, which every child deserves. I hope you're interested in learning more. Becoming a CASA volunteer was one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. So please check out the following videos. Children who have been removed from their homes through no fault of their own urgently need a voice. They need an advocate. You can be that difference.
Just as she said, it's rewarding yet very heartbreaking. So you give with your heart, and it's amazing to see how the youth grow up and where they are. I mean, I can't talk personally right now about current youth, but youth in the past. I can think of two brothers whom I went to high school camp with in 9th grade and 11th grade, and they are now California State University students. I am so proud of them. They were homeless in elementary, and their biological mom remained on the street. Yet those two brothers are now thriving at university. We can be that difference in that child's life, and it's volunteer, which makes our voice even more powerful. I'm not a paid social worker. I'm not a paid attorney. I'm there on my own choice to be there with the child and nurture who they are and watch them blossom and grow into what God meant them to be. And I'll end with that. You have some questions, stay for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Myra. As she shared, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And when we After we hear from all three of our speakers, we'll have a time to answer those questions. Our next speaker tonight will be Rebecca Ehrgood Miller. Rebecca is a physician associate from Kane, Pennsylvania, who works in family medicine for Warren General Hospital. Her calling to ministry as a healer began at age 13 years old. In her role as a deaconess, she also does health education for small church groups and at conferences. Her topics of conversation range from preventative medicine, women's health, men's health, geriatric care, and talking to teens about all the things that no one else wants to talk about. So with that said, I will invite Rebecca to share about her ministry.
Thank you so much, Megan. I'd like to start with a funny story. When I was in third grade, I got in trouble for bringing an anatomy textbook to school. Apparently, not everyone wants to see a dissected eyeball on the school bus. How was I supposed to know that? I don't know too many people who can claim that that's a reason why they got sent to the principal's office when they were in elementary school. But as Megan said, when I was 13 years old, I was called to be a healer. Initially, I felt very strongly that I was supposed to be a neurosurgeon. But in time, I realized that maybe that wasn't for me. And someone asked why I didn't become a physician associate. And I grew up in a small town. We didn't have those here. We just had one doctor for the whole community. And when I looked into it, I found out that that was where I was supposed to be, and those were my people. My journey to where I am today is quite tortuous, but I have always been called to ministry. When Russia invaded Ukraine and there was a call for medical supplies, I knew I was supposed to go. My brother was a missionary to Ukraine for several years, and when I called him to tell him that we should go and take medical supplies, he was not surprised and had already been planning our trip. Our mother was not surprised when we said that we would be going to Ukraine, and uh, and she supported us fully. We knew our love for our Ukrainian friends needed to be shown in action. It's not ideal to be in a war-torn country over Easter, but Michael and I brought them a sense of normalcy while we gathered around the table to enjoy Easter dinner together. We laughed and sang without a care in the world while a war waged on in the East. These are my friends and my people. I enjoy doing children's moments during the church service, but please don't ask me to preach. My brother is the storyteller in the family and is much better at preaching. If you want me to come talk about medicine, though, I can talk about that for hours. 6 years ago, I saw an ad on Facebook to come to a Deaconess discernment event. Despite being a United Methodist all my life, I had never heard of this term before. I flew to Colorado to learn more about this group of people. Upon my return from the event, I told my family that I had found my people. Today, I work as a deaconess, sharing with groups, whether it's small church groups or large church groups, and sometimes even in programs and outreach events, talking about health and wellness on a plethora of topics. I'm always looking for new groups to speak to. And if Ukraine isn't too far to go, I don't think your group is that far to go either. So I would love to come and talk to you about health and wellness.
Thank you, Rebecca. And if anyone has questions for Rebecca, you could start putting those in the chat now, and we will be having a time to do Q&A in a few moments. So our third and final speaker for today is Deaconess Ginny Whitehouse. Ginny is a multimedia journalism professor and director of the School of Communication at Eastern Kentucky University. She works with first-generation college students from the Appalachian region, teaching them how to tell the stories of their communities. Currently, she is leading a team identifying the names of people enslaved at the Whitehall plantation and developing a documentary film on their descendants. She is active in United Women in Faith and is leading Mission U retreats throughout Kentucky. So I will hand it over to Deaconess Ginny Whitehouse to share more.
Thank you. There we go. Now I'm unmuted. I am so honored, Megan, to be able to join Rebecca and Myra and get to talk to everybody all over the place today about some things that I'm super passionate about. I have always been active in causes for racial justice, And I've always been part of storytelling as a journalist, a professor, as a journalism professor who works with filmmakers. And several years before I started my deaconess discernment, my university became the caretaker for an historic mansion that you see here called Whitehall. Now, this mansion has troubled me for a long time because of the incredible limited information about enslaved people who lived and worked here. And this is a justice issue. That's why the expanded story of Whitehall became a powerful, integral part of my ministry. African American genealogists have struggled to find the identities of their ancestors. Finding and telling the stories of resilience, it's important. It's as important as telling the stories of resilience in Appalachia today. Now, sharing that story gives dignity both to the living and the dead because Black history is American history. And mid Southern century Southern history is rooted in this story. But just as white Christians did backflips to justify slavery then, the attempt for justification continues to come out very twisted now. You may have heard of the myth of the lost cause. Basically, it says the Civil War was a tragic but honorary struggle fought to preserve the Southern way of life. We'll hear a lot of key phrases such as the Civil War was not really about economics. The Civil War was really about economics, not slavery. Never mind the economics of slavery. The Civil War was really about states' rights, not slavery. Never mind that states' rights were about proclaiming slavery as a state option. The lost cause was the backstory for justifying Jim Crow, segregation, and our contemporary prison crisis. Now, Kentucky, in particular, as a border state, has this myth of the kindly slaveholder. Now, South Carolina and Mississippi did have so many more enslaved people in rice and cotton fields. They were literally worked to death. We in Kentucky did not have so many enslaved people here. That's true. But there were two cash crops that required cheap labor, hemp and tobacco. And for that reason, enslaved people made up 20 to 25% of the population of Kentucky from 1800 till the end of the Civil War. The justice issue here is, what do we as a community choose to remember? A part of the Kentucky myth is centered at Whitehall, right here in Madison County, Kentucky. Cassius Marcellus Clay was known as the Lion of Whitehall. His father had been the largest slaveholder in the state. Cassius got religion while he was in college at Yale, and he became Kentucky's greatest opponent of slavery. But he was an emancipationist, not an abolitionist. He was a leader in the Republican Party and campaigned heavily for Lincoln, was considered to be part of his staff. And he owned slaves up until the end of the war. This latter fact has largely been pushed out of history, if not in fact denied. And our team of researchers is trying to write it back in. Now, you may recognize the name Cassius Clay. You should recognize it. And now you know why Muhammad Ali changed his name. So I started building at our university a team to figure out the best way to recognize the lives and work of the people that the Clay family owned. We eventually pulled together 30 faculty from 11 disciplines and departments, plus help from the city, including the mayor that you see down there at the bottom center, lots and lots of people in the community. I'm going to mention Sharon Mitchell in a minute. She is at the top center picture in the green sweater. We went through so much, and we were trying to work with identifying the best way to find these people. So the head of our archives said, we need to start by finding their names. So to do that, we went into the Clay family letters, ledgers, manifest deeds, wills, and over 3 years, we had 350 students transcribing 200 of these documents. And now we have identified the names of 300 enslaved individuals. We'll provide you a link out to the Say My Name project, which is housed in our university's archive. Here are some of their stories. We're going to click through and just give you a little time to read on your own. These are just two sets of powerful stories. But for me, the most powerful story was of a woman named Celia. Sharon Mitchell, who I referenced before, was our community consultant, and she had been telling me for months that her friend Gary Nolan had a story that she wanted him to share. And I gently tried to get him to tell me the story. We had several meetings. He came to my office one day, still hesitant. And I had at that time a card that was printed with the names of the 100 or so people we had identified at that point. And he looked at that card and said, there is my great grandmother Celia. And he told us this story that I'll let you read here. We have taken all these stories and shared them with fresh signs and exhibits at Whitehall. We have taken the signs that you see here and put them up around Whitehall during a Juneteenth celebration. Our second art installation is now open, and you can see some of the names here in the picture on your right of some of the enslaved people. The dress that you see there in the center was the dress of an enslaved woman who also came from Madison County, and her owner, who had 6 children with her, at some point bought it for her. And her story of how she created new life for her family it blows us away every day. We can see so many things that we've been able to do we have had an impact, according to the mayor, on our community. And our students have come away with an important realization about what it meant to be enslaved, because they literally had to type the words of those letters, and they got to hear the experiences of those people. They could see how belittled they were and were so joyous when they were able to find a name. That's all a story that we want to tell. And we're working on a documentary that we hope to complete by next summer. I am blessed to have been with a team that understands storytelling as an act of justice. I am blessed to help our community choose to remember its story. This field you see out here is outside Whitehall, and it's not always what people think about when they come to visit. This was once a hemp field, and now it is a parkland. I am honored to get to be part of the story. Thank you so much.
Friends and siblings in Christ, happy Giving Tuesday. Thank you, Deaconess Myra, Rebecca, and Dr. Ginny for sharing your stories today. I'm Deaconess Kim Harris. I am blessed to be serving on the National United Women in Faith Board of Directors for the 2024-2028 quadrennium. This Giving Tuesday, we have the power to create a brighter future for women, youth, and children around the world. Will you join me? I would like to thank you personally for your gifts to mission. Registration giving for this Voices in the Field was $767. Your financial gifts help support the training and consecration of deaconesses and home missioners who are called by God to be in a lifetime relationship through ministries of love, justice, and service. Help United Women in Faith uphold the Micah 6:8 pledge to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God. By making a generous year-end gift, your Giving Tuesday gift will make a profound difference in the lives of so many. Thank you for all you do on behalf of United Women in Faith. Thank you again for your mission giving gifts online at the link shared in the chat or by following the QR code on your screen. Jessica will now lead us in the question and answer session.
Thank you, Kim. And thank you to our three deaconesses who shared just a part of their stories. Some of you gave us just a tidbit, and we have questions piling up in the chat. People eager to learn more about each of you and the work that you do. So I'll try to move through the questions that came into the chat. First question for Myra. How are you assigned as an advocate, and what does it involve to work with a child?
Well, we're assigned children by referrals because there are way too many foster youth that they all can't have an advocate. So by the referral system, and then first off, you go through training, which is approximately 40 hours. In California, it's 40 hours in person and online. There's a background check because we are mandated reporters. We have to get fingerprinted, driving record, just the background check. And then we also have an input on if we want young children, elementary children, junior high or high school, and we work with the supervisor to get a good match. Do you want a sibling set or do you want super young kids? What are you interested in? Does it matter what language they speak? Because I love language. I don't care what language they speak. I'll learn their language, right? So it begins with that, going through the training, the CASA Academy. and then working with the to coordinate with choosing the right child for the right fit, and then taking it from there.
Thank you, Myra. Um, I have several questions for Rebecca, so I'm going to try to kind of group them together. One is people want to know a bit more about what you do as a physician assistant and where do you do it? Where are you based?
Yeah, so I work full time as a physician associate for I do outpatient family medicine in Pennsylvania, northwestern Pennsylvania. If this is Pennsylvania, right? Maybe it needs to be this way. I don't know. Anyways, I'm up here in the corner, up here by Lake Erie. And I see patients all day for acute and chronic illnesses, and then I do this on the side, we'll say.
Okay. And by this, you mean speaking with groups about
Correct.
different health
Yes.
issues. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So
Thank you.
related to that, there was a question if you're available for online
Yeah.
presentations and chats,
Yeah.
and what topics do you talk about with
Yeah.
groups?
Yeah. So I think primarily right now, what I've been doing is kind of a preventative health advocacy program where I've been presenting to people what you should be talking to your doctor about as far as preventative health is concerned. So making sure you've got all your vaccinations, making sure that you've had all your preventative screenings, and have you talked to your doctor about end of life issues, those kind of things. That's my primary discussion. But I'm also open to speaking to a group if you want to learn more about diabetes or blood pressure or anything, honestly, any health topic that you're like, we would like to know more about, whatever. I'm happy to educate you all. It gives me more knowledge to share, but it also empowers you to go and talk to your doctor.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
And these are a couple of bigger questions. I know that you work in a rural, largely rural area of
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. So a
Mhm.
question was, are there more challenges now for rural hospitals?
Yes. Yeah. Financial is probably the number one, which doesn't affect me personally, but it affects my patients more than anything. But in a rural healthcare setting, we definitely have to try to see more patients because there's just not as many providers to cover for them. And also just trying to be well-rounded because I don't have access to specialists like you all do in the city. To try to send an 85-year-old into Pittsburgh, for instance, to go see a specialist, it's not an option. They can't do it. And so making sure that I know as much as I can and offer as much as I can to them. Hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, Another big question for Rebecca.
Bring it on. I'm ready.
Um, what issue do you think is highest priority for women's health in the US and even globally?
Yes, yes. So, gosh, that is a good question. That's a really good question. I think the thing that we're seeing more of, okay, so nobody likes getting their mammograms. I understand. Like I'm old enough, I've had a mammogram now. I understand it's not pleasant. But those preventative tests are really important to make sure that we're catching things before they become a bigger issue. A lot of people say, well, if I have a problem, I'll deal with it then. But by the time you have a problem, it's too late. So go and get your mammograms. We're seeing mammograms in older people because we're living longer. So even though you're like, no, I'm 65, I don't need that anymore. Definitely the preventative stuff. I know that menopause is really a hot topic right now on social media. And I don't want to be dismissive of that either. It's very important. Talk to your provider about your symptoms that you're having, so that you can have real discussion about what kind of treatment you need.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
One thing I always love about our Voices from the Field featuring our deaconesses and home missioners is just the diversity of ministries
Yeah.
and ways of service that you all are engaged in.
Yes.
Everything from court-appointed special advocates to
Hmm.
health fields, a physician
Yeah.
associate, and then we have
Yeah.
Ginny with her justice-based research in Kentucky. And for Ginny, we had a question. How can someone plan a visit to Whitehall? People want to go see this
Mhm.
exhibit and experience your
Yeah.
research.
We are generally open in the spring through summer months because the building is old and not really well heated. It's about to be moved from the university control to city, and that may mean that it's open more often year round. So if you want to make a lovely trip to Kentucky, you can look up on the Kentucky Parks page and it will give you directions. But if you're coming down 75, there's a sign there that says Whitehall as you go south from Cincinnati to Knoxville. So it is has a lot of interesting opportunities for learning more.
Great, thank you. And I believe in the chat earlier, we put some information about each of the organizations or research or contact information for people who want to learn more. We have one last question that came up in the chat, but everyone is welcome. If you have more questions, feel free to add them to the chat as we do have some time. But for each of you, if you could share with us what spurred you to become a deaconess?
Can I go first?
Sure.
So yes, I'm a cradle Methodist. Had no clue what a deaconess was. And it wasn't until my late pastor, Robin Matthews Johnson, who just passed away recently, she really spurred me on. She goes, look at this program. You're already doing everything. That's you. Just look into it. And I'm like, I was working full time for the church already. I didn't think I had any more energy to do this. Yet, I think it was Rebecca who shared, I found my tribe. And my tribe isn't just nationwide. There are many in the Philippines. There's a university there. My family's originally from the Philippines, and my mother went to a Methodist college, nursing school. So I found my tribe, and that's enough right there. And the 5 classes were engaging. The essays we had to write were engaging, so I'm thrilled, and I'm thrilled to meet many more of the DHM community because we are of the same tribe.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah, just like I said, I went to that discernment event and just met a handful of people, and I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. There is no question whatsoever. And when I went back and I told my pastor that I had been to this event, he goes, "Now, is that a female deacon? Is that what you are?" And I said, "No." No. And I've been amazed. Now, in northwestern Pennsylvania, there's only a few of us. So a lot of pastors don't know what this is. So I returned prepared to share with everybody. Like this, if you're already wholly committed to the church and to ministry, you should join this. This is a great thing.
I, like everyone else, was shocked. The first time I heard about it, I was literally seconds away from presenting about Rebecca, we did a Ukrainian refugee fundraiser. And I was presenting how that had been transformational to our church at a United Women in Faith district meeting. And right before I was supposed to go on, they say, and we shall pray for our deaconesses and home missioners and the work that they're doing for love, justice, and service. And it was all I could do to not say, okay, stop. I want to hear more about that. That's more important than anything else I have to say here. And it was that moment, that was my lightning bolt moment. And I knew that that was where my calling was.
Thank you so much for really sharing what is a calling and the different ministries and advocacies that you all are engaged in. We did have a couple more questions come in the chat, and we do have time. So I will ask Rebecca, would you, would you consider doing a virtual presentation about end-of-life issues for case managers? Health, says the person asked, Shelley Owen, who work with people who have intellectual disabilities.
Yes.
That's great.
Okay. So I think Rebecca, if you're willing, you can put your contact information, or you can, have messages on the side with those
Yeah.
who want to extend an invitation to you. And the last question, which some of you touched on a little bit. I think, Myra, you started talking about the training for deaconess and home missioners. I'm curious how that has impacted your individual ministries, and the way that you engage. You were called to this work, but then you went through the training. So how did that help inform or change or alter, enhance the way you do your
Yeah.
work?
Can I answer that one first? Do you
Sure.
mind? I ended up learning about Harris Bennett, who also came from our county, through the process between doing some research for Whitehall and our history class. And I was blown away how all of those things came together, because as we were studying, it was having a direct, immediate impact. And after the first theology of mission class, I said, "This is the theology I've been looking for all my life."
In one of my classes, I had to read a book about racism, and I got really bothered by that book. I was quite upset reading it. I was surprised at how upset I got. I worked in the past in the federal and state prison systems, and I've been exposed to a lot of people from different cultures. But when I read the book, I realized that I had some internal bias that I didn't know about. I had not recognized it about myself. And it was really eye-opening to me that I had to, um, as a white person who comes from a predominantly white community, I didn't realize that I had some of that in my heart, and to have to work through that and recognize that was really powerful. It really took me to a whole nother level of understanding.
I had no idea the founder of the school that I served at in Japan was even in the Book of Discipline, because who reads the Book of Discipline? And even my pastor, when she let me borrow the book, she goes, "You're going to need this for your class, and then you most likely will never open it again." So to find Harriet G. Britton listed there, it's like, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But we're all a part of that legacy. We're already active in ministry, in church and outside of church. And that's what amazes me the most, is we come from all different walks of life, and we all have something to contribute to our community.
Thank you so much. There are more questions coming into the chat, but there will be time in the breakout rooms. For those of you, I hope, who have put these questions in the chat, will be joining the breakout room to discuss, but I'll name them here quickly. Ginny, the title of your talk was Echoes of My Name. Are you a descendant of those who owned Whitehall?
No, but I am a descendant of some colonizers of this county. And so that's the best way to describe it. My people helped literally colonize this county. So it's a deeply personal story. But
Yes.
thank you for asking.
Yes. And there's another comment with someone who resonated with your reflections, Rebecca, on your own internal bias, as another health practitioner as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Megan Hale. Thank you all again so much for sharing your stories with us.
Thank you again for joining us for this Voices from the Field. We hope that you've enjoyed your time with us and you've learned more about Deaconess Home Missioner relationship. If you or someone you know is discerning a call to ministry, we invite you or that person to consider joining us for our upcoming virtual discernment event. It'll be on Zoom in early February next year, Thursday, February 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The QR code there will take you to the registration. Or if you want to just send them my contact information, they can email deaconess@uwfaith.org and I can help get them connected. Or if that sounds like something you're interested in, please send me an email and we'll get connected. I also want to share that our next Voices from the Field will be a special live and in-person Voices event. It will take place in person in Indianapolis, Indiana on Friday, May 15th at 12:30 p.m. and Saturday, May 16th at 2:15 p.m. at the Assembly. This specific Voices from the Field will feature women leaders from Africa, South America, and Europe. And as a reminder, early bird registration for Assembly has been extended, and it is ongoing through December 7th. So if you haven't registered yet for Assembly, you can still do that and still get the early bird registration. And if you would like, please sign up for this Voices from the Field in-person event. And thank you again for joining us for this Voices from the Field event.